my topic today is about financial aid in today's society. Will be briefly. Bear with me. According to recent findings by the National Center for Education Statistics, over 85% of students use some form of federal financial aid assistance in order to pay for their tuition. To put this into perspective, only one member of the audience seated before me will be able to attend college if federal funding did not exist. Over the years, tuition rates at colleges across the United States have been steadily and rapidly increasing while government funding has been decreasing, which means that acquiring funds to complete the average four-year degree will become rather difficult. I am sure that many of you are either attending college or have a loved one that will be attending college at some point will need financial assistance. So today, I will be discussing the trend of rising tuition rates. Explain the effects of these high rates, discuss how government funding is declining, and explain how to minimize student debt. Let us begin with just exactly how college tuition rates are on the rise again. Referring back to the National Center for Education Statistics, tuition rates have been steadily increasing throughout the years. Statistically, about 4 to 5 students require some assistance in order to attend any higher education institute. This increased rate has been linked to rising retention rates in students. More and more students are finding it difficult to pay for a full-time schedule. Unfortunately, because rates are rising, this will ultimately require a large budget from the government assistance program, and with the already large amounts of budget cuts taking place in other programs, financial aid assistance in the future is rather questionable. Now that we have discussed rising tuition rates, we will discuss the effects these higher rates are having on students themselves. Since the tuition rates are increasing, as many students will see when registering for future semesters, students will now be faced with the question of how they will pay for these upcoming semesters. According to Working and Studying Day and Night, a research study done by Darolia Rajiv, the students of today now dedicate more hours of their day to work than they do to actual studying. This lack of studying has been linked with lower grades and the length of time in school to be extended. This study has also found that in order to cope with higher rates, more students are opting to take out student loans with higher interest rate just to manage to continue attending college. Now that I have just finished discussing the effects of higher institutions, I will now move on to discussing how government funding has been declining in the recent years. With government funding available for students continuing to steadily decrease, the amount of money each student will need will conversely increase. According to the Center on Budget and Policy, priorities recent federal funding has fallen an average of 20% for each student, meaning that there is an additional 28% of funding the student must now provide in order to maintain the same amount of classes as they did in the previous year. Now that I just finished discussing the dramatic decline of government funding, I will now explain several ways to stay out of student debt. Contrary to popular belief, it is possible to become out of college debt-free, or at least with a minimal amount of debt that would be easily paid off with the purpose money management. According to the economist Nicholas Hillman, in his paper, College on Credit Minimizing Debt is Crucial to Success, he suggests avoiding student loans, only accepting when necessary, and only accepting the minimum amount needed when these loans are taken out. It is best to pay off at least the accumulated interest yearly in order for the upcoming year's interest to not be calculated off. The previous year balance and interest. Hillman also suggests creating an emergency fund that will be used in case of a sudden expense in order to avoid unnecessary usage of student loans. While it is possible for some people to attend college without financial assistance, this is not the case for the majority of society. But with proper money and time management, debt can be minimized. Today I have discussed The probable future for financial aid recipients. Within the higher education system, I have discussed the rising tuition rates in the college system, the effects of these rising rates on students, how government assistance has been declining throughout the years, and how to end college with minimal debt. I hope that my speech today has helped inform you all about the rising cost of education and how it affects students all over the country. However, there is hope, and the continuation of education is still possible and should be the highest priority of all up and coming adults. Thank you guys for being here today. Camera